Welcome to the potential future of StarCraft 2, with the very first high-level games that I've seen, and the new proposed StarCraft 2 balance patch. We've cut the starting worker count from 12 to 8, in the interest of encouraging early game diversity. And we have two of the most diverse and most infuriating early game players here today. Both high Grandmaster and both well known as connoisseurs of cheese. We have the professional cannon rusher in the green. It's Printf, facing off against a man who makes Zerg Rush not just a build, but his lifestyle. It's Lorimbo. Two players well known for their one base pressure and their low economy success. And we'll see if it translates into the new StarCraft 2. And first, before we get started, and we're going to get started early as a Forge is already in production and be incredible, you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy, no, we're not changing this part. 1,854 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. We'll put up a, I don't know if we already have, but a whole list of the relevant changes. And of course, you can watch my initial impressions video. My impressions have changed dramatically, but the general vibe is still the same as if you watch that. Now, one important part is the ability to watch for early pylons, early forge. The Overlord is over 20% slower, and you can certainly feel it. And the map is dark and full of probes. Now, for context, these two are playing on the same map, Ruby Rock. And essentially, they're just going to be cheesing each other. The idea is to reduce the variables, to maximize the control testing, and to refine the cheese into something sharper. Just like now with Printf doing a long-range cannon rush, the hatchery is canceled. 2 probes, the battle probes, actually enough to keep the drones off the cannons. Usually 4 drones is enough to stop a cannon, unless there are 2 probes tasing you in the process. And he loses the drone. He tries to slip out another. It's important, because just a quick laser tongue from one of those probes is enough to help 2-shot the probe. And of course, Warp Gate, which is now located on the gateway, is a critical part of the changes to Protoss, as Printf transitions into a more ground-based style. Warp Gate now speeds up the production of units out of gateways, and unlocks the ability to upgrade individual Freudian slip, individual gateways into Warp Gates. So it is no longer an automatic thing that you receive. And it no longer is tied to the Cyber Core, which has some very interesting implications in other matchups, but not as relevant here right now. But you still need the Cyber Core in order to unlock Shield Batteries, Stalkers, Adept Sentries, and any other tech. We'll see if he goes that far. But Warp Gate being researched, it also, just speeding up the production out of gateways, might very well be worth it. And, of course, warping in is still a pretty strong choice. Now, Lorimbo has chosen, with that drone we saw sent out, the one base that Printf has not scouted with his probe. Right outside his own. So, Lorimbo has taken his Natchery on the other side. He immediately canceled the one on his, thinking that he wouldn't be able to defend it cost-effectively. And, well, there's not cannons outside of this base. There's a Stalker trying to come up to the high ground. We have a Lair now completing. The times of most gateway units... Oh, he opens up a Warp Gate. So, you can, for the cost of 50/50, switch a gateway to Warp Gate mode and back for free, with a small one-time fee of 50/50. So it's essentially a warp tax, where you can now warp in quickly anywhere in just 3 seconds. But you do have to pay for it on each individual gateway, kind of like Terrans with their add-ons, or Zerg with Queen Inject for production, which is a very rough and not direct equivalent. But thankfully, we don't just play mirror matchups the whole time. Is that an infestation pit? Indeed it is. There were buffs to Microbial Shroud. I don't think that's for infestors. there are 2 stalkers warped in back at home, chasing down the roaches. The roaches on top of the stalkers. More overlords producing. The probe gets a kill on the roach. The stalker pushed up against its own wall, trapped in a prison of his own design. He cancels something over on the other side. I believe it was an overlord. And so printf is currently containing Lorimbo outside of his own base, and none of this larva is being used. So 3 swarm hosts are on the way. We have Sir Richard and his band of swarm host brethren. Not an accident, but instead a very direct counter to entrenched static defense. But I have no idea. So the question here really is, at what cost? Obviously, as time goes on, it gets worse and worse dealing with swarm hosts, but he hasn't actually seen them yet. In fact, this is the first time. The Adept will get a full scout, he'll spot the infestation pit, and the first locust will drop down. And they have very high DPS if they're allowed to land, but printf does not panic. He backs off, and there's quite a window of time between each locust wave. Oh no, the overlords! More like sloverlords. Oh, you sound very sad. So, well, implications on that. We're going to have a whole lot of balanced discussions, both in the comments and otherwise, but the game is on. And the Adepts, well, good micro back. There's a Stargate on the way with the other gates of its kind. As Swarm Hosts don't have any anti-air capability, but the Stalkers are struggling to actually make it up the ramp. I think it's a good time to mention that there's technically more minerals in the main base, and it mines for longer efficiently. As each small mineral patch now has more, the larger mineral patches have slightly less. Which means you can mine with a relatively high income on one base for several minutes longer. And I think these players are testing that to about as dramatic effect as possible. As the Swarm Hosts continue to stagger out waves, the thing is printf has only lost 1 Stalker, and it was to a probe. So the shield batteries are finding a lot of value on the field. He blinks past the Swarm Hosts on cooldown, trying to gestate faster. He's going to lose several of the Stalkers as another couple sets of Locusts come out. He could recall, but that would be quite a journey back home. If he's going to, he has to do it soon. Otherwise, he's going to lose all his stock. Blinks in. Oh. Well, he blinks so much, he's not going to be seeing anything at all. He dug too deep, too greedily, and he loses everything. Except for the defenses. There is 1 Void Ray in production, which is not enough. A fleet beacon is on the way. The shield batteries are enough to keep the cannon intact. I feel like a full wave of Locusts without DPSing. He's building the cannons behind, and this is actually very important, because units will avoid... Shield batteries don't attack you, okay? But they support the things you do. So if you build the shield batteries in front of the cannons, that can really help in kind of buffering units. As you see there, the Locusts will fly past, and the cannons still having plenty of effect. They hold. The shields hold, though the energy is drained. And now... Okay, so do the shield... How many shield batteries does it take to generate enough energy to defend the Locust waves? I mean, the Swarm Host count is continuing to grow. It's 67 to 35 supply, but I feel like the supply count has never mattered as little as this exact scenario. As Swarm Hosts are only really valuable for, like, 15 seconds. I think it's about 17 seconds out of every 50 or so. A Nidus is on the way. He lights up the Void Ray for that extra damage against armored. The Queens, though, not armored, and not happy with the existence of the Void Ray. Though, the creep spread is a bit lackluster. Creep spreads slightly slower, but it also recedes slightly slower now, which is honestly a buff, I think, most of the time, except 2 players who are perfect on creep spread. So if you're not Cyril or Scarlet, it's probably a buff, because the creep stays around for longer even after the creep tumors are cleared. Meanwhile, this is restricted lair space. This is our main base, Brenda. Well, that makes it very important, doesn't it? I don't... I guess. I don't... The Swarm host, though, with the Nidus on the other side. Print F only has one base himself. He can't recall the probes. Just targets the Nexus. Okay, wait, there's a Tempest fighting Swarm host, but he has 1,000 minerals in the bank. I don't know if he can't... Well, this base is more defensible, so they've both now expanded. So Printf is not mining. He will not be revealed. 2 Tempests and a 3rd on the way are enough. The Queens don't really have the... So, Huh. Now, for reference, in the live game, the game not on the public test realm, the Swarm host count is getting high enough. The Nidus brought him back. And takes down a pylon, which depowers several full energy batteries. But Printf is focusing on the anti-queen micro. Unfortunately, he strays into range, and the knitting needles, 1 HP. So close. Oh, he really needs to pull that back. That's just gratuitous. The queens are holding. There's enough energy for transfuse. He can recall the probes out of his base. I don't know the last time the Rimbo checked the main base of Printf. That there wasn't another Nexus rebuilt there. He does not know about the expansion, which is a very generous thing to call it. The Swarm hosts are going to unleash again. He recalls all the probes out of his main and will be mining again, which is... It's happening. The Tempests are shelling the main quite successfully, but you can't repair them, and the shields are pretty easily stripped away. Does not have tectonic destabilizers, obviously. The Fleet Beacon and the Stargate are at the front. The Queen count is healthy enough, though not everyone individually, more as a collective, which is kind of their thing, I guess. Could do some micro in and out of the Nidus network, but that one Tempest with 1 HP, but still doing 100% damage. He's moving the Spine Crawlers forward, which is... Were those supposed to be spores? Corruptors are popping out, and usually 3 Corruptors is not enough to get very much done. But this might be the only case 3 Corruptors are more than enough, as... Well, the Void Ray lights up. The Queens backs off. Another unit, a strong gust of wind away from death. The shield batteries, but the Swarm host wave. The Queen's straying forward. He finds the Nexus. Will kill some of the probes. Larimbo strays a little far down the ramp. The Locust wave times out, but the defenses are stripped away. He lost the Forge. He lost the Cyber Core. He can't rebuild any cannons or shield batteries. The only thing he can build right now is Stargate unit, probes, and zealots. And probes and zealots might be a fun arcade game, but not a great counter to Swarm hosts and queens. Well, to be clear, Swarm hosts, queens, and Tempest, none of them got any changes with the patch. But the road to get here may have been affected by it. The Stargate itself will be targeted. And I feel like Larimbo, on one base at 13.5 minutes, I was going to he's building a mothership because he lost his Stargate, but he still has enough gas for a mothership, which Larimbo's about to mine out entirely, which is a potential win condition. If there were a couple less Corruptors, then maybe, but it's just not enough. Oh, it was dangerously close. GGWP. Wow. So, for reference, you usually start mining out in the live server with the smaller, I guess, mineral patches at about 8-9 minutes. The Rimbo not mining out, so those patches have 800 minerals. These now have 1,200, whereas the large patches, which are the only ones that left over here, have 1,600 instead of 1,800. So we see Larimbo still mining to some extent, though he was drying up at about 13-14 minutes, which is approximately the same time as on the live server. It's just he was mining with near full income for most of it, which is the difference. On top of the fact that you start with less workers, which has a lot of implications. And generally, I will say, not great for Zerg. But the Rimbo making it look positively something. And you might be like, deja vu? We've just been in this place before. And indeed we have. But these two, like I said, very technical about their cheeses. It's not vibes-based cheese or vibes cheese on any sort of series you might have watched. But instead, actually testing each possibility. Printf's specialty is the cannon rush. And perfecting it, quite literally. It's a surgical cheese. And Larimbo with a variety of finely curated Zerg brushes. And we see here, and they both know the other's going to do something along those lines. I don't believe they know the exact build. But the idea is control the variables, as I mentioned. So no, we're not playing the same game again. But I'd love to see a different take on it. And that's what we're doing here. And the reason you're watching this is because, believe it or not, they keep going different directions. And they're all entertaining, in my humble opinion. But I'd like to take this time as Printf slaps down a pylon outside of the vision. He's gonna know. But to remind you that it's not necessarily a new patch or any of the changes specifically that are creating such a diversity of strategies. But instead, just the inspiration to attempt it is a lot of the reason you'll see them on a new patch. Though these two are always innovating. You might have heard the same song, but sometimes there's a new cover that's even more entertaining. As Printf jams his cannon into a corner, he's got a gateway blocking it off. He knows that the hatchery was canceled, but he's continuing along this road anyways, making sure the pylon can't get picked off. Larimbo just takes his third. There was a second probe sent out, which is a usual tactic as we saw in the first game. The buddy system for probes is very important. One, if you lose the first probe, the whole rush is dead. And two, if they do exactly this, if they try to sneak out with those early drones, you need something to keep track of it. Otherwise, you're not controlling the variables. Cybercore at home, but not attempting to continue the cannon rush. Instead, opting for a more tech-oriented play. We saw Warp Gate being used for the Warp Gate in the previous game. Though, some of the value is now in just building units faster out of gateways. The attempt is to give Protoss a reason to think. Which, I know, it sounds hard and original, but literally for the entire history of StarCraft 2, up to and including a week before this patch, or a day, a minute, I don't know why, random amount of time, there was no reason ever not to get Warp Gate, because once you got Warp Gate research, you put your gateways into Warp Gates. In fact, they made it automatic in Legacy of the Void. That's how ubiquitous it is. There's literally no reason, because the Warp Gate cooldown up until this patch, proposed patch, very important, was literally quicker than building out of gates. So there was no advantage besides maybe queuing up units like Florencio. Now, it is faster, depending on the rush distance, and per cost, to build units once you have Warp Gate. Though Printf get you a little supply blocked, unfortunately. Even these players, I think, thrown off a little by the timings. As you start with less supply, pylons provide the same amount. You just get supply blocked at such different times. It's like an uncanny valley playing, to be honest. It's so weird. 11 years of muscle memory are just gone. They're not gone. They're like... It's like you're playing out of key. With the wrong keys sometimes. But no Warp Gate, just building up the Stalkers. There are 2 Spine Crawlers on the low ground, Lings and Banes in the main. And thankfully for Printf, the Adept Shade actually scouts that this is a potential Baneling bust. He's got Stalkers. The Queen's here as well. And he's just going to try to bust. And is the busting good enough? I don't know. That was not good. No. Oh, no. Well, banelings always get one kill. At least one. Unfortunately, it's usually themselves. That was not worth it. He slows down a little bit of the progression here, but a warp prism... Oh, no. It's a Has build. The build that Has used when shield batteries were first introduced to almost beat Cyril. Okay, it was like 4-2. But the fact he even got to the finals and played against Cyril with proxy shield battery robo. And here we are again. Though Larimbo is encroaching. Did he just recall the sentry? Indeed he did. Could have juggled it out with a warp prism. I'm not sure if that was the intent. There was a threat on the other side. It doesn't look like they've scratched at it, though. The shield batteries will help against the spine crawlers, but that's a lot of damage. The spine crawlers are just bashing through. They actually do extra damage to armored, which includes all buildings. And now he's busting for round 2. And the refractory period was surprisingly short. Juggles some. Makes his way back behind the cannons, but the gateways are being impaled by the tentacles. And that's most of the production. There's an immortal on the way, which is going to be absolutely critical in helping deal with this. Just building out of the gateways, the cyber cores on the other side. The spine crawlers extending at maximum length. And it's a beauty to watch. Is he dodging the spine shots? So he's trying to get close enough to actually hit, but... Oh, he force fields the pylon and protects it from being taken down. Though the Zerglings, I don't think we're going to get close enough. Repositions the spine crawler. And, well... The Immortal is supply blocked, unfortunately, as he lost a pylon or two throughout this. Building another one behind. If he gets depowered, he can repower with the Prism. But if he gets wiped out and loses all his units, well, there's no easy solution to that, as all the production is right here. So, the spine crawler's bashing through the pylon. Everything's still powered by the backup pylon. Gotta have your tasteless pylon to back up Artosis, of course. The sentries do have energy. A force field, the timing is going to be absolutely critical. A force field to the right side. Oh, and the sentries? The banelings splash across and overall do nothing. Another Immortal's on the way. He's building a Robo Bay. Another force field goes a little bit too far out. That's a lot of Zerglings. He didn't have vision of how many Lings there were until this moment. Juggling back. The Spine Crawler's trying to use this opportunity to move forward. One of them could be obliterated by the Immortals. Actually going to be able to root, and any amount of damage here is huge. Retargets onto the spines. Transfuses will hold the line. And now, right, Larimbo breaking through. But I think Print F is going to be fine. And it's a sign that maybe the Protoss? They're not the ones crying. Meanwhile, the Zerg. Larimbo tried to break it outright. He spent most of his economy. He does not have a lair. He does not have a roach one. Spines and Lings. And that was the extent of it. And there's a Colossus in production. And he's getting extended Thermal Lance, which will make 2 of us by the end, but I think, therefore I am. And also, once that Colossus is out, the Spine Crawlers were doing a surprising amount to backstop this. And even though Larimbo has creep surrounding the majority, I guess Queens are an okay counter. He could walk into the main right now. He doesn't know that, and he doesn't want to risk it. The Colossus is walled in, but he'll juggle it out with a Prism. The Prism is the key to all this, of course, as it so often is. But the Colossus! The Queens are still a real counter here, as they can use their anti-air attacks against the Colossus, making it a weird weakness. The anti-air attack superior, of course. Did he? Is there? Oh, the cannon provided detection. I didn't think he had an observer. He does not. Using the Warp Prism to create a power field to add that extra cannon and then a pylon to back it up as well. A second Colossus, extended thermal lance. He's waiting it out. He correctly... Lorimbo does not have the economy. He's at 23 drones. That's not enough. A disruptor on the way? If he knew it was just lings, I guess there are roaches in production, but he already has 2 immortals. 2 colossi, 2 immortals, 1 base, 0 fucks. The printf way. I can put that on a tank top or something. Meanwhile, though, oh no. Well, oh yes, depending on who you're rooting for. As the Colossi force back the Disruptor shot! A critical hit, and the Queen is obliterated alongside anything nearby. And I think that was the massive Nova that broke the Zerg's back. And a whole lot of everything else. It was already looking good for Printf, but now it's looking a little bit better. Lorimbo taps out as the long-winded Robo-Proxy against the Ling Bane. Now, would a earlier transition into, like, Roach Ravager have been the play? Possibly. The Ling Bane? It exploits mistakes. But if you have really good SimCity, like Printf did, even though he lost a couple sentries throughout, it felt mediocre. The Ling Bane. Kind of like it always has. It takes so much of your larva. That is the most important part, in my humble and modest opinion. Larva is at an absolute premium, because starting at 8 supply means you have to use so much of your larva just to exist as Zerg. Like, you have to get an Overlord relatively early. If you're going to expand, that's another larva. That's such a percentage of your economy. But Deja Vu. This place. I don't know if it was just random chance that they spawned in the same map positions each time so far. But, here we go again. And quite a limit test indeed. What we're really seeing, more than anything else, I think, is the one base economy being more reliable. Which, for both sides, in both games so far, the ability to productively mine for longer on one base. Oh yes, also gas geysers, technically. Now, mining out of gas usually happens significantly after mining out of minerals, so it's not as relevant in these all-in scenarios. But gas geysers are back to 2,500 remaining, as opposed to the 2,250 that we're used to. And this is a different game, right? Yes. I'm 84% sure. We'll see momentarily. As a very similar start. But, be quite a troll if he just sent me the same game twice with 2 different names. Shout out to Lorimbo, by the way, for sending me the games. And if you haven't yet read his write-up, an extensive and well-researched write-up on the struggles of Zerg cheese on the new patch, then I highly suggest you do. And, oh, the cannon's placed differently. It is different. And maybe Jimmy will provide a link to my dramatic reading of it, which, if you do end up watching it, I want to make it clear, just because I read it dramatically does not mean I don't agree. I very much do, on almost all points. And it's a great read either way. Even if you disagree wholeheartedly, you can't debate the, it's well written. And now, a different response. He still goes for 2 hatches, but on one base, he did an Evo chamber trick in order to get more supply, which is something I haven't seen. He already had a second gas, though, so he needed one more. I think it was with the Queen, or at least a set of Zerglings, to make sure this probe couldn't just hang out. So, now we get to see another progression. Lorimbo knows that Printf is doing the, wow, Robo right off the bat. Both of them kind of advancing their strategies here. It's going to be Quick Roach Warren, which is soft to semi-hard counter by the Quick Robo. Adept? Oh no. Wait, is there even anything to deal with? There's the drones and a queen, but there's no zerglings. Doesn't commit the adept. It is a big commitment to send in your only unit. There's zerglings on the other side, which prompted a cannon back at home for Printf. Kind of important because every bit of minerals and every bite of gas puts a layer. It looks so weird to have the layer on the second, but now he can produce, like, this is his queen production. And that's a very relevant part of early game in general. It's a RoboBay rush. And he's building the RoboBay as part of the outpost setup. So we're just going about our business here. As Larimbo having his Zerglings do some interpretive dance. Now Kith. Don't make it weird. You're the one making it weird. The Adept Shade constantly scouting. Doesn't see much, but sees enough. He knows about the roaches and ravagers. He knows about the lair. He knows about the queens. And the count of them, most importantly. What's it gonna be? Colossus. Well, he knows it's Roach Ravager, but Disruptors are too unreliable, right? A Nidus network is on the way. They're the most passive game. The tension, like, something. A Colossus is queued up, though he's hard supply blocked. Yeah, that's rough. That's actually really rough. That's a bad supply block there. That's gonna delay the Colossus by a lot. He recalls Stalkers back. Wait, did he spot the Nidus? No. But he's looking for it in his main. Now the Slover Lord here is slowly, and I have to stress, so incredibly slowly. He's just gonna drop the Nidus of the natural. Try to break through. And Printf not expecting the most direct punch in the face sort of Nidus. There it is. The Zerglings. There's a single cannon and a single pylon. Oh, no, they're taking too long to spew out the Zerglings. Honestly, that could cost him. The Zerglings coming out first and taking this long to get the Ravagers. He needs to keep high ground vision with the Overlord. He will do so. But this gives time for Printf to potentially do some damage on the other side with this ragtag band of Protoss highlights. We have an Immortal, a Sentry, and a Colossus, down to just the Robo units. Still pretty hard to deal with for just a few Roaches and 3 Queens. He could come back through the Nidus network in order to defend, and the Colossus takes a lot of damage. Breaking through the cannons. The shield battery's not enough, and this might be a bit more one-sided than a Mobius Strip by the end. As Larimbo, well, there's another cannon. He's going to depower the Cyber Core, which is kind of irrelevant. You don't even research Warp Gate there anymore. Larimbo's at only 22 drones. Another Colossus is on the way, but he retreats to the shield batteries. The main base is just gone. He's lost every probe. He's going to play without probes. But it's not over because he still has enough minerals. He's building another Colossus. He's fighting. He's gonna... Well, he can't get that Immortal out of there. The Colossus steps down. The Corrosive Bile. This is definitely a spot of desperation here from Printf, but he comes back through the Nidus network. The Nexus is still alive, so he will... Oh, he's chrono boosting. Well, 3 Colossi incinerates another Queen. Larimbo has 19 drones, which is a better economy, but not so much so that it's a decisive advantage. Like, well, one topples, another one up the ramp, and oh no, that's too big of a mistake, I think. Oh, the shield batteries. He loses another. There is some real potential here. But the Miss Micro and the Colossi stumbling over each other. He's going to have a Colossus drop. If he had 2 or 3, there was potential. But I think now it won't be realized. 2 Zerglings, just making sure nothing happens back at home. And he can throw everything at it. Technically, nothing can hit the Colossus if he micros perfectly. But, the Warp Prism is vulnerable. Oh, if he had 2 Colossi, there's real potential here. Like, there's potential for a 0 economy. If not win. But it would... Lorimbo can lose a lot. And he has a lot to lose, which is most of the issue. Juggling the Colossus before any projectiles can hit. Oh, no. And that may be a bridge too far. He's just breaking down. There's no obligation to do this. In fact, this is the only way you could potentially screw this up. Like, it's just the Colossus. There's a Spire on the way. Like, the juggling is beautiful, but it's more of a clown fiesta than Cirque du Soleil right now. It's, oh my. Oh, it's beautiful. I've never seen such a beautiful Colossus since I last saw your mother. And, like, it's... I don't know how many... I'm trying to click on it. Like, 27 kills. He gets another one. At this point, it's just to prove he can. But the Nexus has fallen to 2 Zerglings. There's a Spire on the way. And it literally would take 1 Muta to win the game from here. But, again... Oh, my... Limit testing. There was a new feature added to dropships, by the way, which you should test out as soon as possible, because it's actually incredible. It's pick up nearby units. It's a new hotkey that allows you to micro effectively like Clem. You no longer have to click on the units and then right-click on the ship. You can just click only on the thing that you want to pick up with. And it works how you would think dropships would work, but haven't for 16 years. It's actually... I've immediately implemented it. It's way better. And though it does reduce the gap between everyone else and Clem somewhat, but it's a lot more intuitive and one of my favorite changes that doesn't really affect balance except for people who are not threatening the best players in the world. Printf, still going. But, the Corruptors will come out. He's at 8/0 supply. The Colossus at 44 kills. But unfortunately, a GG of Corruptors. And here's the thing. He repowers the shield battery. He has not rebuilt his base as being revealed, and that's it. Good night, and good luck. There goes the Prism. There goes the hero. And there goes the game. GG. The Rimbo wins. The best of 3. I think there was real potential there, though. Like, some understandable yet painful Miss Micro on the Colossi. 2 Colossi, it's a lot to handle. But now we have our anti-spoiler, though I don't think I said that was a best of 3. And I don't know if it was a best of 3. I just got sent 3 games from Lorimbo, so. And quite a variety, though we saw the refinement in games 2 and 3. Though I'm not sure if they were played in that order. Probably should check that too, but. Zerg versus Terran. Against Luolis, who, I'll admit, I don't know, but I know that everyone he's been playing against is at least mid-Grandmaster. So players that might to you look like a poor impression of some of the best, but would absolutely wipe the floor with myself and almost every single other person watching this. Except maybe Lorimbo. Thank you for the games. And we're going to see some more. If you haven't yet checked out Harstom's channel, I would be surprised. But specifically, he played against Lorimbo, also doing some limit testing on Zerg versus Protoss and early cheese. Which, I don't want to give a false impression here, as those were some of the highlights. Zerg is... And I'm biased. And you know what? I'll actually admit it this time. Instead of saying I'm 1/3 Zerg myself. The reason I'm only 1/3 Zerg is because I got kind of sick of playing Zerg all the time. Well, one, I wanted to make content for all three races, but a lot of the time when I think about dedicating more practice to it, and then the Cloak Banshees, or the Oracles, or the Adepts, or the Sky Toss, or the Ghost show up, and I feel less dedicated to the idea. And the start with 8 workers instead of 12 is not good for Zerg. On its face, it might seem better. But the relative time that you get your hatchery, the relative time you get your spawning pool, is actually later compared to the timing for the other races with their gateway and with their barracks. And everything else is the same amount of time pretty much, or even slightly quicker in the case of Protoss gateway units to an extent. Which means that you just have less in general. And you might be like, but what about queens and injects? Well, you have to build a spawning pool in order to get queens. And if you delay your second hatchery to get a spawning pool to defend, then you have even less larvae, and even if you get injects. On top of the Overlord being... So, okay. Lorimbo did a pool first, yes. But he did a pool first and expanded. This is an economic pool first. His Zerglings got here before the Overlord. If there's one thing... Oh boy. Oh my god, it's so slow. You're gonna regret. So, Luolus went command center first on the high ground. Lorimbo is doing a Roach all-in. Now, Luolus, in typical Terran fashion, did not scout with an SCV. So, he's just banking on somehow surviving to any sort of cheese. So this is not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario would be being on the low ground. Also, I assume that's friendly banter and not like trash talking directly, but the Overlord, if the Overlord goes, well, no. So that actually supply blocks Lorimbo, and now he doesn't have high ground vision, which means he has to come up the ramp. I think this is a pretty good demonstration of the issue. Is Lorimbo is doing a dedicated Roach timing. Luolus built a command center first and Marines. And had enough Marines to defend. Now, Lorimbo was following up with more Roaches, but the thing is, when the Overlord is so slow that Zerglings get there before it, it begs the question of, what is your purpose? Yeah, just die already. I don't... Sorry. Like and subscribe for Existential Dread. And he drops the supply, which repairs the depot. A change from the previous patch, which I'm still incredulous exists. It feels more like a co-op situation. Not sure why he didn't drop supply there. He dropped a mule. Fun fact, mules now auto-repair if they're not dropped on minerals, which is a nice quality of life. Though he could have dropped another supply and potentially repaired it, so. Well, it eventually ended up doing some damage. This feels like a Brood War build, especially the way he's setting up his barracks. But Lorimbo now, 33 drones, so he's caught up. Luolus has not... He's just now taken the expansion on the low ground. He still hasn't seen anything outside of his natural. He killed off the Overlord, which severely hamstrung the early attack. And it might not seem like a big deal, but having to get halfway up the ramp to get vision of the Marines for the Roaches and Ravagers who are range challenged is taking a lot of extra damage with each exchange. Now, let's be fair. Maybe that's a good thing. And the reason the Overlord speed was nerfed, ostensibly... Now, we don't get the explanation, but the obvious logic is because we start with less workers, it's a bigger investment to scout with a worker, for Terran and Protoss, especially. So, Overlord shouldn't be the same speed, because then they'd be scouting relatively quicker. Except Overlords are now so slow that you can't scout at all. So if there was if only one thing, I think we need to take a real hard look. I love the worker change. If we had any guarantee there was going to be a potential follow-up, like, iterating patch in a month or two. But I think it might be as interesting as it is, and as much interest generally it has brought. There are so many implications. This game was designed around 12 workers, Legacy of the Void. All the units, all the timings, designed around 12 workers. Changing it to a different number, it certainly changes things, but not necessarily in a... it's a lot. I really think that changing up the minerals and gas is already a really interesting change. And the changes to Warp Gate, which are not necessarily a nerf to Warp Gate. Stuff like that. But the worker change... we're gonna need to look long and hard about it. And now the biggest issue is, if you're watching this on the day of, which, awesome, thank you, like and subscribe. We got more coming. Recommend which matchup you want to see next, pros or otherwise. And you can check out the streams that I play at more relatable level. But there are several major tournaments on the previous patch happening in this month. So it's pretty clear that the Blizzard intern, maybe literal, did not coordinate with tournaments at all. Which is not ideal, because players like Cyril probably won't play the patch at all. And Larimbo might not play if he keeps getting gunned down by basic Marines with no upgrades. The Queen's trying to hold, but it's a disaster. He loses 10 drones, all the Roaches and Ravagers, and this is all before the third command center. Well, the third command center just started, to be fair. A Marine tank timing. Larimbo got a bit greedy. Tried to find a timing when he could move out, or before Luolis moved out. But Luolis cuts right through. And to be fair, this was such a random timing. He attacked moments, that whole attack was 30 seconds before +1, and like a minute before +1 armor and combat shield. Doesn't make any sense. But he did move out, and Larimbo was underprepared. Though he doesn't lose the 4th base. And he's got upgrades on the way. Now, Zerg, this is the first time we could talk about it. Zerg Carapace upgrades are now 50-50 cheaper across the board. So that's only 100 minerals and 100 gas for +1 Carapace. 150 and then 200, which is 150 up to +3, which is quite a big buff overall. That's a decent amount more money to throw around. And we'll see if Larimbo can use it. The +1 Carapace will help, but 1-1 is now done for the Marines, as well as combat shields, which is probably the most important of all of them. Roaches and Ravagers, he knocks out one tank, but the other two well positioned on the high ground. 9 more Roaches on the way. Luolis not backing this up as strongly as he could, and he doesn't have the 3rd. He's locked into 2 bases right now, though he does have the 3rd command center. Does he have an armory? Yes. He just hasn't started the 2-2. Clearly feeling the pressure a bit. There it is. Sorry, don't listen to the recording in the future. Come on, have some respect. The tank's moving forward. We'll see if we get to an infestation pit, and maybe, dare I say, the new microbial shroud, which is kind of the same. It's just you have more range and don't need to upgrade it. Still a buff, but functionally the same. The Roach Ravager eventually overruns the Marines and tanks. The Marines will pick up and get out. The tanks, not lucky enough to do so. And we'll chase across the map as Luolis did not maintain quite enough production. He's going to send out 2 medevacs, all the while sending another one back home. And if Larimbo knew about this, he might just be able to smash into the 3rd base. There are not enough units to defend. He's just sent out 20 supply and medevacs, which is supply not sitting at home, dealing with Roach Ravager. Another slow overlord taken down. They are the same speed as the live patch when they get overlord speed. but that does cost gas. Unfortunately, no overlords in position to spot, and that means the Marines are going to drop out uncontested. Several drones going down, the Queen as well. The evolution chamber is potentially vulnerable. He guns down several more drones. He's already killed 19 and counting. And gets out with the majority. Picks up one Marine, clearly not using the new pickup key. You can really tell when it's being used now. Well, unless they're really good at it, like Clem, who makes it look so smooth that it seems like they have an automatic button. But no. On the live patch, it's a two-step process to pick up. Whereas with the pickup nearby, it's just a single. And it's drop o'clock as he hits the natural again. The fourth base is taken out. The natural still under fire. The roach is gunned down. The spore crawler in position doesn't take it out, instead dives deeper. And Lorimbo gonna lose even more drones. Maybe another overlord. He picks up eventually. Gonna take a few more hits. A scan. And there's so many Marines. Infestor is on the way, but he's tearing him apart. The Marines and Marauders, a couple of them mixed in, just continue stimming and winning. They now have a 3 upgrade advantage. The Infestors are popping out, but they're still a long way off. A siege tank backing it up. The drop again at the 4th base, scrambling back and forth. It appears so far that Luola's not regretting his choices to go command center first, as much as Lorimbo may have implied. He's down 45 supply. Now, the only reason I can think at this stage for him to send me this game is, one, demonstrate how much of a struggle it can be in this economy in the mid-game. Or two, Microbial Shroud. So Microbial Shroud, might have to talk about it a bit more, reduces all ranged attack damage taken underneath the Shroud by 50%, regardless of who's under the Shroud. That includes enemy units. And it's applied after armor, if that calculation is still correct, which means it's even better than 50% if you have any armor, base, or upgrade. So, we will see. As Lorimbo with several infestors, it takes 100 energy for Microbial Shroud, though. Fungal, of course, also incredibly important, and infestor energy is something that is always at a premium. It's 200 to 140 supply. It's 2-2 against 2-1 upgrades, with 3-3 on the way. This army is barely deserving of the term. It's a pittance. Luolis is maxed out. This is about as good as it gets. Oh, he stims down. The Infestor's building energy. Is there a Ghost Academy? Ghosts, nerf buffed. And there it starts. So Ghosts now have 25 less HP, back down to 100. They have 3, they're back up to 3 supply apiece. Thankfully, in trade, they now do a flat 20 damage instead of 10 with a bonus of 10 versus light, and you cannot interrupt their snipe, which also does more damage at 170 as opposed to 130, and then a little more versus psionic. Though it does cost 75 energy. So, if you're Terran, feels like a nerf. If you're anyone else, jury's still out. The Rimbo has survived. Luolis, reluctant to engage into that much infestor energy. Especially, there's 2 Ultralisk Caverns on the way. And they're kind of right next to each other, so we'll see if he actually realizes. The Corrosive Bile almost taking down both tanks. The attack down the front. Lorimbo trying to hold it together. He'll knock out the majority of this and actually clean up the tank as well. Fungals. Big wombo combo. Takes out several medevacs. The Infestor energy still holding. He still has a couple. Another Fungal. But with no follow-up. Oh, and the full energy Infestor, or near so, is taken out. But the supplies get a lot closer as Luolis clearly focused a little on his micro and neglected some of his macro. With a couple thousand in the bank. Another wraparound. Gonna get a double kill on the tanks with the Corrosive Bile. Finishes off the other, more conventionally. And Ultralisk on the way, the turnaround. Another shot almost knocks down the medevacs. Larimbo refuses to die. He holds the high ground with the infestors. He's got Ultralisk on the way. Is his double Ultra Cavern play going to pay off? Are we going to pretend like that was intentional? He doesn't have the gas to get either Ultra upgrade, unfortunately. And he's currently down 3-3 versus 1-2, but a nuclear missile in production from Luolis. The hubris to go for the nuke, not the cloak instead. But the sheer economy behind this is just going to be hard to contend with. And you can no longer interrupt the snipes with fungal, which is quite a conundrum. Though killing the ghost is still a viable option. And that is pretty hard to do without said fungal. He just lines up the shots in the face of the... Well, you can't just go with the face of the Baneling. Still lands one or two. Another Ultra. It's a Paperlisk. Chitinous Plating and Speed are on the way. The Ultra just explodes in the face of it, though. Another double drop is loaded up. Larimbo is mining barely from a 4th base. Just trying to lay down a creep tumor with queens and same hotkey. Oh, he does have cloak. Launches a nuke. Just whips it out there. I think he knows he saw the red dot. Of course, oh, really? Just throws a nuke out there. Yeah, I guess he did to get... Wait, does he have 2 Ghost Academies? No. So the Ghost gets 1 kill himself. Just like Blizzard with every Ghost that it's tried. 2 more Ghost Academies and a Fusion Core on the way. As Luolis understands his relatively comfortable position. Meanwhile, Larimbo struggling. And has been almost since he came up the ramp the first time. Who's regretting what now? Oh boy. The Marines, the tanks, the Marauders. The Medivacs, the M&M and M&M. The Matanks. Fungal whipped out. Misses the mark when he cues it up, though. Oh, it's a disaster. The tank's doing a lot of damage to the Ultras. The Marines and Marauders doing plenty else to everything else. The Ultras are gone. The supply is gone. The nuke is in the sky. The base is going down. And the Infestors still strong. The Zerglings, arguably more so. But not strong enough. He was never quite able to recover from the economic position, though did a incredible job of trying to drag his way back. Just not enough. Luolis will power through. And a pretty decent demonstration of when cheese fails, the implications. So, and I do plan on doing this, and I've done this for the last random patches we've had come out. We'll get my thinking music. My thoughts are immense and detailed, and probably not easily articulated in a short amount of time now that I put myself on the spot. But first, we need to test this for longer than a couple weeks. We can't just slap this on the ladder and call it a day, especially since there are multiple major tournaments who will not be using the PTR, the public test room version, for their tournaments. There's GSL, there's Maestros of the Game, and Wardy has several major championships, and there's Uthermal's 2v2 Cup. There, Cyril and Hero and Clem are almost certainly not going to be playing very much of the PTR. And I love the new strategies, the new ideas, the new builds, but they probably would have happened anyways with 12 workers. There's very few things so far that are directly attributed to the worker start itself, and more attributed to the idea of all the rest of the changes. We're doing so much at once, it's going to be almost impossible to determine what is what is the cause and what is the effect. So it comes back to, if we weren't just getting random patches once every 8 to 12 months, I'd be much happier. But I am heartily concerned, though entertained, at the one we have. And if you'd like to debate more, I've been streaming on this channel, which is rare, but it's in the name, the whole StarCraft part, right? and having a lot of fun actually playing. But from what I hear from higher level players, generally, the economy changes are significantly worse for Zerg. The changes in general are arguably worse for Protoss, and Terran just can kind of do the same thing that they've been doing for 16 years. So, maybe that'll change as it gets more figured out. But we saw two of the most technical players at the very start. Maybe not perfect execution, but from a strategical point, literally the players who the patch is targeted at. We want more early game diversity, more builder, more early mid game strategies. They're two. You'd be hard pressed to find two players more dedicated to that than Printf and Lorimbo. So, let me know what matchups you want to see. You made it to the end. You're dedicated in some fashion, or you're asleep. In which case, wake up! It's time to like and subscribe and make balanced line comments in the comments. But I am incredibly excited. I keep using that word, and it's still true, but I'm starting to lose its meaning. But I'm very excited. Not better, same thing, same vibe. But to show more games on the new patch. Though I hope you'll still check out some of the old ones, as we have, like I said, big tournaments coming up. I hope, and I dream, and I wish we could have a little more communication, literally with anyone, on anything, at any time. But I'm glad there's someone. And there's so many little bug fixes and quality of life things. It hurts almost more that there's anything. Like, it's not a clean breakup here between Blizzard and StarCraft. Like, it keeps stringing us along. And I'm still here. So, if you are as well, it'd be awesome if you could, if you got the means and motivation, check out Patreon, YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our meal tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario Suit. Glad you still enjoy. And make sure to check out Lorimbo. I don't know if he streamed, but he just loves cheesing. All right, I don't think he even streams that much. He just really likes the game and coming up with new strategies. And we'll have a link to my reading of his breakdown of the new patch. Jimmy, write that down. Yes, I know he wrote a lot. I did. But thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.